We are here to bring you everything and anything surrounding Porsche. I'm Mike.
I'm Aaron.
And this is P-Car Talk.
All right, welcome to another episode of P-Car Talk. I'm Mike.
And I'm Aaron.
And welcome to the final episode of the year. That's right, this is the final episode of the 2025 calendar year. We will be taking Christmas break off, and once we get back at it, it will be the new year. So before we get started, I want to go ahead and say Merry Christmas if you celebrate that, or any other holiday. I guess the political way to say it is just say Happy Holidays, right? Like, so we're not offending anyone. So
Happy
whatever you
Christmas,
celebrate, be safe out there. There's a lot of BS as usual, always going on in the world. Appreciate those ones around you and spend some time with them, and hopefully everyone has a good holiday. Let's go ahead and thank our people.
Let's do it. I switched up the order, so same people, kind of, maybe. Sean H., Richard P., Nick F., Matthew G., Leslie N., Ken S., Chris S., and Aaron L. That's our Kimchi crew.
Thank you guys so much. Want to shout out our buddy Zach, local guy. He just bought an air-cooled car. Congratulations to him. He also became a member. Excited for him. He also owns a bunch of other cars. I don't want to go through his Rolodex just in case he doesn't want people to know his business. But excited. It's not his first Porsche, not even his second Porsche, but glad to have him. I think it is his first air-cooled Porsche, though, so good for him. Cool car that he bought at a Jack's, right, Aaron?
Yep, that's what well, yeah, because he's like, I'm looking at a car, so I saw the pictures, and then I was like, that looks familiar. I was like, oh, Jacksonville. Mm-hmm. And so I texted Aaron, I was like, hey, this your car? And then he texts me a picture back from his office view down. He goes, this one? Yeah, that's me. So yeah, they connected, and so yeah, he said he had a good experience.
Yeah, I can't imagine him not having a good one. Aaron is the man up there, so
yeah, do
love him very much. He has helped a lot of our P-Car Club members, like he helped Todd out of a pinch in the past. Like he's helped me, he's helped everybody. So he's an awesome dude. So let's get the show rolling. So big news, 718 news. So we were under the impression that it was going to be EV only. So now there is an announcement that came from Porsche that they are changing the architecture where it is going to have a combustion engine that's going to live alongside of the EV release. So there'll be a combustion option engine. You and I kind of thought this in the past. How were they going to do this? Were they going to kill that car off permanently? We didn't think that was going to happen, especially since the EV debacle with every auto manufacturer. That horse has been beaten to sleep, so we're not going to get into that conversation. But this is good news. So as my good friend Lee Corso would say, retired college football analyst, if you don't know who that is, not so fast, my friends. So if you think you bought the last 718 combustion generation and you're hanging on to it because you think like, well, there's never going to be another one, we're going to be good to go and all that other stuff, bada bing, there's another one coming. So
that's you, Dennis.
Yeah, in a good way. That mid-engine car will live on, as it should, right? Like it was going to live on in an EV format, and there was a lot of people, including us, that were pretty sad about that. Even though we don't own those cars, that doesn't mean that we don't like them. I like having them in the lineup. I like being able to see that. I like to see Porsche making those vehicles and dispersing them and selling them. So what this does do as well is open the door for any future GT4 and RS type stuff moving forward within the 718, because they are changing the architecture of that platform so it can fit a combustion engine. So that's good news all the way around in the Porsche camp, when it seems like for the last quarter or even more, there's been a lot of dismal news coming out of that camp, and this is a very positive thing. Your thoughts on this?
So my first thing is, not that they were always going to do this, but I would imagine that they were already marching down the way to doing a combustion engine for this version before they even had the EV version thought about. So maybe it's not that big of a lift for them to do this, but they need to do this. Is this the dot? Would this be like the dot 3 version of the 718? Because I feel like they're almost at that point where they need to revise it or call it something different. You know how they do things. You almost need a new model. So,
yeah, that's a good question.
I think it's cool that it's happening.
Yeah, I'm sure that for nomenclature's sake right now, that's what it's being called. I'm sure when it's actually launched, it'll probably have its own chassis designation. It's probably just one of those things right now where they don't want to call anything out because they're still developing this thing, and they didn't give a release date or anything like that. It's more of just kind of a dangle carrot situation where they're saying, hey, this is coming. So everybody kind of had their heads hung low or high if you thought you had something very special that was last of the make, or whatever you decided was going to be what you hung your hat on, was going to be the last combustion engine, mid-engine, non-supercar thing from Porsche. That's not going to be the case. And not that I take any pride, or I guess I wouldn't say pride, but maybe joy in like people that like, oh, I bought the last one, we're going to be good to go. We've seen this before from Porsche where they're like, hey, we're not going to make this anymore, and then they make something. It happens over and over again. I think this goes back to the old additive of buy the car because you want the car, not because you're hoping it's going to be a future classic or it's going to be worth money or whatever. If you're playing the Porsche shell game where it's, hey, I got to keep buying cars so I can keep getting allocations game. If you're in that whole rigmarole, more power to you if you're into that. But whatever. I'm just glad that they've made the announcement. I
was going to say that they're like this, as far as like just redoing things. They pulled that 993 turbo off the shelf from how many years ago, and made a new one back in the day for just for Rennsport. So that's always a possibility. I don't think anything's the last of the last. Yeah, and I also so now that I had time to think about it, I think at this moment they thought that they weren't going to sell these EVs, and if they don't have anything combustions beside it, it's just not going to pay the bills.
Mm-hmm. I think this goes back to a couple podcasts ago when we talked to Mike, the GM at Porsche Clearwater, and he talked about how big of a chunk the Macan and the 718 basically not being in the lineup is taking out of their production sales numbers, their bottom line numbers, how much that's impacting it. And I'm sure the lever pullers that are high up within Porsche are also looking at that saying, hey, we need to get these cars in the lineup ASAP. Like, we can't afford to take a third of our lineup out, like after, especially with all this tariff stuff going on, nobody's buying EVs from us. You don't have to be the smartest guy in the world, like to sit there and look at the numbers and say, okay, hey, this means less. Less is not good. Let's do something about this. It's that simple, and I think that's part of this. And they know that these sports cars, especially the mid-engine ones, there's that, we talked about this that over and over and over again. There's this inner Porsche rivalry. We're all Porsche fans, but again, there's guys, especially like yourself. Oh, I'm 911 guy, no matter what, come hell or high water. I'm not doing anything, right? Like, even though you owned a Boxster, but like, you're just like, I don't, if I'm choosing, I'm picking 911, which is fair. Everybody's entitled to their own opinion, right? But because of that, if you don't have a car that competes with a 911 anymore, or that little brother syndrome where people are like, well, if they put a GT3 motor in this car, that car will dominate this car, etc. They want those conversations to continue. When you kill that car off, that conversation dies. So when you're still making the 911 and you're not making the 718 combustion engine car anymore, there's nothing to argue about, right? Then now we're talking about past stuff. And as we know, as auto manufacturers, they're always looking towards the future or present. Anything in the past doesn't even matter to them. I mean, they care about their history, but at the end of the day, it's, what have you done for me lately, right? Like, what are the sales doing right now? Because they can't hang their hats on like, oh, hey, remember that 2024, GT4 RS that we made, that was pretty badass. And you're like, yeah, that's great, but now it's 26 and we're not making one, so it doesn't matter.
Do you think that? So I know we're going to talk about motor stuff and see if they do anything different. And I just had the thought that popped up, since they have the 4-cylinder turbo. Do you think they do like a little hybrid version of the 4-cylinder EV, and then a 4.0 for a GTS and 4S? I mean, I know they're going to split it up, but that would be kind of interesting if they did it that way. If they made a hybrid and an EV.
Yeah, I don't really know, because I don't know if that just complicates that architecture, especially since they were probably never expecting to go that way. I think the 911 always had that, I guess, engineering standpoint of when they redesigned that. They knew that car was going to go hybrid. I think they have their hands full as is to just switch some of the internal setup to combustion alone. I don't know if they want to overcomplicate things and throw a hybrid in there. I would imagine we're not going to see a bunch of variants of it. I bet you there's going to be EV, and then they're going to do the whole model line that they do with the Taycan, right? Like, I think we're going to see probably a 4-wheel drive version of it, because of EVs. Like, all EVs have a 4-wheel drive version. So, we might see a Cayman EV4 or something, and then we might see a turbo, and then we'll probably see like a base. I would imagine they'll probably just go with like a 4-liter. And it might not be a GT product, because I mean, they were making 718 4.0s. So I think they might just offer that, like at a higher level, meaning like, hey, if you want a combustion engine and you don't want a GT product on the Cayman platform, 4.0 is your only option. Now, if you want like a hot version, you can get the GT4 or the GT4 RS. I still think those cars are going to be in their lineup, because those cars make so much money. Even though production numbers are somewhat lower, they sell all of them. Like, there's never like people come in and they order them and they sell them all. So for that fact alone, I think they'll do that. I think those will be the offerings. I think there'll be a non-GT department 4.0, and then there'll be a GT4, and it'll be a 4.0, but it'll be a hotter motor, obviously, different architecture internally to make it a GT product, obviously suspension, all of those things to make it stiffer. And then there'll be a 4RS version. That's what I think.
Makes sense. That's what I was kind of thinking about after I said it. I was like, well, they just had one motor, that'd simplify things, but they don't always do the simplest things. So I guess we're all going to have to wait and see what happens to the lineup.
Yeah.
I mean, I think a full EV lineup and a full combustion.
Yeah, I think the whole reasoning behind my man math behind that is you want to do as little as possible to take away from the EV if you want the EV to sell, right? Like, you don't want to pair that with stuff that it's identical next to it, meaning like, all right, if you put a 2-liter motor turbo in a hybrid base type of situation, a lot of people won't even elect to take the EV, right? So then that thing is going to be stillborn immediately. So what they're going to do is probably offer only a high-end version of the combustion engine. So if you want a base level like Cayenne or Boxster, you're going to have to buy the base level EV, because there isn't going to be a base level combustion engine. It's going to be, all right, now if you want that, you need to step into the 6-figure category only to get that car. That's my thought process, and I bet they're thinking the same thing if I'm betting.
So we're almost making like an automatic manual conversation out of it, just with the different, motors.
Kind of, like almost forcing their hand, because at the same time, like, what will be the point of that for them? Because if eventually they want to move to EV long term, it makes no sense to hybridize that car. Like, you already have a 911 hybrid. I don't really see that car as a hybrid. It doesn't really make any sense. But I mean, I'm not saying it's impossible. I mean, obviously anything's possible, but why even launch the EV if you're going to go hybrid? So you're just, what I'm saying? Like, so then essentially you would have 3 offerings from an engine standpoint. You'd have a hybrid, you'd have an EV, and you'd have a combustion out of a car that's not even your flagship. Like I could
less
see the
sales is just
911
crazy.
doing that someday, but I really don't see the 718 platform being the first to their market doing that.
Makes sense. I mean, it just doesn't have the cachet that it's going to fly off the shelves enough for them to have what I would believe like 21 different variants at one time.
Yeah, I mean, I think they learned their lesson in that too. In a way, I think they realized having too big of a menu is too much. You know, you have a few outliers that pick some of those odd things on that menu, but at the core of that menu, people are probably picking those 6 or 7 core items, and then they're not going outside of that. And I'm sure their research shows that. So why not dilute that menu some and then get better on the smaller things? Like let's say you go from 21 variants to, I mean, even if you just chop 7, like take a third out of that, go to 14, like you can get better at just those 14 instead of trying to, I don't know, macrame all this BS. I don't know. It doesn't make sense.
Do you think we see a 103,000 pound car? That's the combustion motor. Because if they're trying to get the EV to 3,400 pounds, I mean, I imagine the big chunk of that's got to be the electric motors and batteries.
I would say probably right around it. I don't think under. I would. I mean, even some of the lightest Porsches from '07 weighed like 3,050. So is it going to be under? I mean, and I'm talking about like 911 GT3 products and stuff like that. Maybe I would say realistically, if you got the stripper version, maybe 3,100 pounds, maybe. But that's hard to say because like all of that crap weighs so much now. You know what they'll do is they'll put 8 particular filters on it, and people go to Dundon or Seoul and get it all stripped off. You know, it's also they can sell the car, and then you want to hear the car, so then the minute you get it, you take all that crap off of there, so then you can hear the car. So I mean, all that crap weighs. Each particular filter weighs like 20, 30 pounds. So I mean, take all of them off. I mean, you're saving almost 250 pounds right there. So there's your weight saving. Take all that junk off of the car, right? But I get them. They're required to do that, which sucks. So will there be a day, obviously, where combustion engines? I mean, it has to, because I think the bigger story in this situation is, I know they're, I guess as far as an auto manufacturer goes, on a smaller level, meaning like comparing them to Toyotas and all, General Motors, Ford, the overall amount of cars they sell is still a lot less, even though it's a ton for Porsche. I wonder if they ever get to the point where maybe they build a small factory in the US where it's not as big as it is obviously overseas, but something smaller, because I mean, let's face it, they sell a lot of cars here. It would save them a lot of money in the long run. And if, especially with, obviously this can change depending on who's president, but right now our emission laws are as chill as they've been in a very, very long time with, and that is to basically anybody who produces a car in the US is to benefit them. So, I mean, back in the day, remember the Euro cars, everybody wanted a row car, right? Because it wasn't as strict back then. It's so funny how things have changed when you fast forward 50 years, because you get a mid-year car or an 80s, G-body air-cooled car, and you get a Euro car that has more power because it has less emission restricting things on it compared to a US car. Now it's like role reversal, right? Everything in the Europe is being choked out, emissions, they can't pass emissions, they can't build cars there because they've gotten so stringent and strict over there. And the US, of all places, has gotten pretty light on its EPA standards. And that's due to our current administrations, to be fair. However, doesn't mean it doesn't exist.
I mean, BMW has the Spartanburg. I mean, so then that's what they do their SUVs, and so it does make sense. I wonder where they would put it. I bet you it would be LA.
Probably not, because California as a state's really hard to build in. If I bet money, I would say Texas,
Texas.
because that's centrally located. So probably Texas. And then, you could sneak across the border for you could have a Mexican Sonda Watch department where you could go and do
That'd be epic. The Baja.
You go down there like, hey, you can't chrome anything in the U.S., right? You go to Mexico, that's a different story. You can go chrome whatever the hell you want. So, we can't do that kind of paint here because of the U.S. Well, guess what? We can chromaflare that thing painted in Juarez, Mexico if you want to paint it. Well, we'll just take it on down there. It might not come back, but who knows?
Texas edition.
Exactly. I don't know. I mean, it has to be on their radar, right? They completely doubled down and tripled down, or whatever the terminology you want to use, on building some EV factory, and they lost their ass on it, right? Like with the house on it. Dude, if they would have spent a third of that and just built a manufacturing combustion facility in the US, a smaller one at that, they would have been making hand over fist, right? They wouldn't have to been worried about tariffs and all this other bullshit, right? Like they could have just been like, bro, we make them here now. Like, we're good. All US cars are coming out of that place. We don't, and then their European factory can focus on just making shit for EU and Asia. Think about that. What would do to their, in a good way, for their business dynamic, right?
No shipping cars back and forth. There's a bunch of different things that would solve.
No delay in shipping, all of this stuff. I don't know. All right, let's move on.
It wouldn't be as big of a deal, though.
But think about it. It wouldn't have to just be for the U.S. If that plant was, let's just say Texas, that could just handle the entire Western Hemisphere, right? That can be U.S., Canada, South America, Central America. That could be all of that. You wouldn't have to the turnaround time on the car would be faster. Getting the cars to the people would be faster. All of that stuff would go faster, right? I mean, I know it's a huge expense to take on initially.
Yeah. Corpus Christi to Jacksonville, just so it has a shipping thing and you can follow it. Keep the app useful.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of people may or may not know this. A lot of in the Western Hemisphere, most cars, whether that be getting made in Detroit, Michigan, or Flint, Michigan, wherever they are, they move by rail car. So they get on a train when they're manufactured, and they move to these depots all over the U.S. or even in South America, and that rail system is set up to do exactly that. So it can move on land. It doesn't need to move by water. So, elements will be almost a non-factor at that point.
We solved it.
Don, just listen to us, man. Let us run the shit. We can just come in as consultings. I don't need benefits, man. Just fine. Just 7-figure salary. We're good to go.
Just give me a $299.
Do 2-hour calls a day. Have somebody doing transcription on it. We're good. We're golden. Let's move on to the next topic. So this is an interesting topic, I think, and I think this kind of falls between the cracks a lot, because for the exact reason that we just closed on the last topic, there's a lot of people in the camp chasing or buying new cars. So with that chase of the new cars, a lot of the older cars, either you fall asleep on or you just have assumptions. And if you're not a buyer, you don't do your research, you just kind of assume, right? So what I'm talking about is Mezger engine cars. Everybody kind of thinks they know, but I've encountered a few people that were pretty knowledgeable about Porsche and actually weren't sure on this particular topic, how I'm going to get to it. So 996 turbos and GT3s, they're all Mezger engines, right? Yep, we know that. Good to go. Not all 997 GT3s are also Mezger engine cars. Yep, we get that too. All 997 turbos are Mezger engine cars, right? Nope, they're not. So dot twos are not Mezger engine cars. Everybody assumes they are because they're 997s. All 997.1s are Mezger engine cars. Dot two turbos are not. So when do dot two turbos start? 2010. So if you see a 2010 turbo, or or people refer to it as a dot two, that is not a Mezger engine car. They changed the engine that year. So
Yeah.
I think for a lot of folks, the assumption is, and I'm not saying you don't know what's going on to assume that. I would say that's a fair assumption. You should assume that because, leading up to that point, because it's not a model change, it's a half year change, right? Usually most revisions with dot twos don't entail an engine change, usually.
Usually, yeah.
And
Like
I'm
they
talking
changed
about
it in the Turbo S.
Yeah, I'm talking about standard products. Obviously, GT products change in dot twos a lot of times, especially 991.1 and dot two, right? They went from a 3.8 to a 4.0. That's obvious. However, we're talking about non-GT products. These are not like the 997 Turbo is not a GT product. That is a normal assembly line product that has the Mezger engine derived from GT stuff, but the dot two is not that engine. So the reason why I bring that up is I did some interesting math just kind of looking at stuff. And we talked about turbos, 996 turbos, and we have a lot on the show and how much we both like them and how the bang for the value is all there. And there's still some, but man, have you looked at those recently? Like by any chance, by
I
just
have not.
having to
I
graze
haven't looked
across
in the market.
something or see any of them? So
No, not super recent.
like a 100,000 mile car with maybe an accident on it runs like 55,000. And that's a coupe manual. Not talking about tips. Like we never talk about tips. So um, there's some convertibles out there living at 50 to 60 manuals. Obviously 996 turbos, but the coupes have gone up. They're creeping up. Prime example. If you want something with some color outside of your, PTS seal gray or a silver car or a black car or any of that stuff, there is, and now this is the ask. This obviously this is negotiable, like depending on what you pay or whoever pays. But the ask on this particular car, it's a 996 turbo in speed yellow, has 40,000 miles, no accidents, manual, $95,000 is the ask on that car. That same car, what, 2 years ago, 65 maybe.
Yeah.
I would say that was probably the number on that car.
Special color.
So 30,000, yeah. I mean, but it is and it isn't, right? Like it was available. Like it's not PTS.
Oh yeah,
but it's
coveted
because there isn't a lot. Yeah. I'm not trying to say it's not, but what I'm saying is yes, there are a few of them. Okay, so a black car with 55,000 miles on it, the ask is $75,000. So my point is 996 turbos have gone up, and that pisses me off. But we've been saying for a long time it's a good deal. I still think it's a good deal. 95,000 is pretty strong. Now, this next one, 997.1 turbo in guards red, 40,000 miles, manual obviously, no accidents. The ask on that car is 130. So would you, I want to ask you this, would you rather have the 997.1 guards red or would you rather have the speed yellow? Tell me why in depth what you would pick for what reasons.
I don't like the 996 interior as much as I like the 997 interior. I think that'll be my number one reason when I'm choosing. The outside I kind of like. I've started to like the 996s more, so that doesn't bother me. But creature comfort standpoint, 997 seats and things like that, I guess that could be changed. Not a big fan of yellow. I definitely would do red over those two. That price, though, I mean, that's a lot.
Right?
That's a lot. It's a big price difference for the same motor. I mean,
And then honestly, like
that's
for what you said, I think long term value, I think the 997 has a lot more ceiling than the 996 does. That's just my opinion. Um, I feel now it sounds ridiculous to say this, and don't get me wrong, I'm not trying to underplay this, but I think $130,000 on a Guards Red 997.1 manual with no accidents with 40,000 miles, I think that's a steal. I think you're stealing that car.
yeah. I mean, especially because go put a GT badge on that thing and then tell me what the cost is. You know, like that's the thing. Like you start getting into that territory, and it's like, well, the power is
Well,
better, the
first of all,
torque's better.
there's not that many of them. I mean, you know,
No,
we talk about production numbers. You know, they only ever made 150 manual 997.1 Guards Reds. It was a normal pallet wheel color. It wasn't a PTS color. However, it's a low production car. Like you just don't see them that often in that number, or in that color. Excuse me. And that price delta between the two seems extreme, but it's not really. I mean, 95 to 130. That's not that much. Like it's not that big of
but
a difference.
95 I
And
get a
I
special
feel like
color versus 130 and I get a special color.
yeah.
I don't
And
know.
and
It's
honestly,
breaking
like
that six figure barrier.
the 997, like it's a better car. Like it has the variable turbos. They're just it's better. It's a better car. Um, Now aesthetically, like some people may want the other one. You know, you can do whatever you want with it. But I think long term, as far as overall acceptance, who knows? Only the future will tell us, right? Like I don't have a crystal ball. I knew 996s were heavily undervalued for a long time. It seems like now um, people have woken up. I don't want to say now, but over the last 2 years, I would say people have woken up to them because getting some super great deal on a 996 turbo just doesn't really seem available anymore. You just don't see them. I mean, you can get one if maybe it has a minor on the Carfax, if you're okay with that. Like that stuff doesn't bother me. I mean, if you're going to drive the car anyways, like most of those are drivers anyway. So, you know, you got to remember 996 turbos lived at a point where they weren't super valuable for a while. And so the people that had them, they didn't like park them in garages and say, okay, hey, this is going to be special someday. They drove them. So most of them have miles on them, to be honest with you. Um, and anything basically above 10,000 is outside of, I would say above 5,000, excuse me, is above collector grade, right? So just drive it if you get
Do you
one.
think that
I would choose.
we're early to
I
it?
would choose a 997.
Oh,
I mean,
I
only
gotta figure
because I think I kind of figure that because of the rise of the 996, you know, it's a cliche term. I hate saying it, but there's facts in it. The rise of that tide is going to raise a 997. They will not be. This will be a joke in probably not even a year. It'll be faster than that. You and I will have this same December conversation if I remember, if I pull the notes again and say, hey, remember we talked about 997 turbos last year that you could get a Guards Red with no accidents for 40,000 miles, which is pretty low still. Manual for 130. Well, that car now is like 190. You know, I really believe in a year's time because what's happening and what always happens, it happens with air cooled, it happens with everything. It just pushes the money around. Like people want 911s, people want Porsches, and they have a certain amount of money and they're like, okay, I'm going to go get this. And then maybe some people stretch to make that happen, or some people see, hey, this car's got room to grow. I'm going to buy it now while it's cheap. There's all different types of people that are buying these cars. But the difference is there's not that many of them to begin with at all. So because of that, that number just dries up, right? Like they're not there. Like once they're all bought up, they're bought up. They're not making any more of them.
Yep, I agree. I was gonna say, like, do you think that we're early to it? But we might see like the 993, 964, or the 993, which I would equate to the 997. The price starts hitting way up there, and then maybe because the 996 looks different, kind of like the 964 does, that it moves above the 997 eventually, or do you think? I mean, because once they cross that magic six-figure mark, it's never coming back down.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think they will, just because I think the 997 has a head start. Like they pretty much, I mean, a cheap 997 turbo that has like a blemish on it, like let's just call it a black car that has like 75,000 miles on it, has a minor accident on Carfax, goes for like anywhere between 90 and like 100. And that's probably, I would say, the low end of what you would want to own. And I'm talking about somebody who's a driver, not a collector, obviously. Like that's probably the low end of it, because it still probably has good maintenance. Whoever owned it before you bought it probably because it did have a minor on the Carfax, and they got it a little bit cheaper, but it was repaired right, obviously. You could see, the extent of the damage on, like, the Carfax reports are pretty good. So the fact that like the base ones are around like 90 to 100, like it already has a higher entry point. So that what that means is it just has a higher ceiling, right? So like the 996 is on the way up, but maybe some outliers like a speed yellow with super low miles, or something super special. Like they didn't make a lot of white ones, so you see a Blizzard white with maybe fucking black interior 996 with low miles, probably go for a big number. That's understandable, but I wouldn't count that as a comp. I would say the core comps on the 996s are still living in the 60 to 70 range, which is still an insane number, because I remember those cars all day long are selling at 40. And you and I, 3-4 years ago, having conversations about it, it's like, how the hell can you buy one of these cars at $40,000? Like that's way too much car. Like if you had, I don't know, and I'm sure there's people that have done it that are really into cars that just have disposable income and just like, I'm going to go buy 10 speed yellows because they just don't exist, and I'm going to go get all the low mile ones and just sit on them because they're modern enough. I'm hook them up to battery tenders and get the oils changed on them and barely drive them, and then just put them back in the market in 10 or 15 years and basically make $100,000 on every single car that you bought. That's a real possibility.
Here.
But I think, yeah. But I think that the reason why I brought that up is they're not all created equal to begin with. So if you're searching for one of these cars, be mindful of that. Dot 2s are not Mezger engine cars, so if that matters to you. Now, they did make manual Dot 2s. There wasn't a lot of them just because it was the end of the run, but it is not a Mezger engine car. Do I believe the Mezger engine cars will carry more value long term? Absolutely. I don't care if you're buying a 997.2 manual and it's like, oh, it's the last of the, those people are the phrase those folks are hanging on to is it's the last manual Porsche turbo made outside of specialty turbos, right? Like we're not talking about Sport Classic. We're not talking about some one-off stuff. We're talking about production line turbos. It was the last one. Okay, fair enough. Is that enough weight to hang on to that car to make it surpass a Mezger engine manual turbo? Not in my eyes. What's your thoughts on that?
No, because I mean because then you could just say that with the one with the Mezger and manual was the last manual Mezger, and you get the same thing. Like it's just it's two different worlds. And I think the pedigree over time, when people start learning like what the lineage of the car is, that it's a GT1 motor essentially, and then how it was derived. It's got all the special sauce for a good story. One, like a well-built motor, and just good driver's cars in general for all those models. So there was a 2009 1.5 where you got the Mezger motor manual and you got the Dot 2 things, but there's not that many of those around. So
yeah,
there's almost
so
a Dot 2 version. Well, technically, but yeah. That's the only thing that gets close
Yeah,
to
but
that. But no, I don't see the non-Metzger motors being worth more than the other ones just because they're the last one.
yeah, I mean, I don't think that. I think the Metzger motors will always be a play on our friend King Metzger. They'll be the king, right? Like I think those cars that carry a Metzger engine, it's a period of time. Um, for those who don't understand the difference between that, we've covered it in depth before, but it's basically a modern air cooled block, is what it is. Um,
The
I
964
mean,
block.
we've been under the 996 turbo I had. It's got a 964 stamp on the bottom of the block where it's like, dude, this is a 964 block. Um, so all of those that weren't knowledgeable, like all of you know, the polo shirt guys tucked into pleated khakis that are parking their cars on the golf course that were like, I can't believe they stopped making air cooled cars. Da 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 da. Those guys were literally asleep at the wheel, like while they're at the country club, drinking their like loaded sugar freaking Manhattans and I'm done buying Porsches. They missed the boat because those were technically water cooled, air cooled cars. Because though all of those Metzger engine blocks have lineage back to air cooled stuff, and if you can kind of start to see that from an education to educate yourself to say, hey, that is another reason why all of those. It's not just the name and the nomenclature behind it, there's actual science behind it. That's why those cars are coveted so much for the people that have the engineering mindset to understand that, to say, these cars are special. Yes, they're modern, they're not air cooled, but they are special because they have a direct, like their heart is from the heart of the air cooled cars. That ended in 2010, like fully. Like it was really over then. There was nothing left from the air cooled cars anymore. That was it. So I think there's some science behind that, especially marketing science. Um, and I think those cars will be always looked at, in my personal opinion, all of them that carry a Metzger engine will always be looked at a little bit more in a brighter light than anything else in the more in the modern era, right? Like, and I'm not talking about STs, I'm not talking about 911Rs, I'm not talking about, I'm talking about actual 911s that aren't specialty cars that made more than 1,000 of. These cars will, to the day we die, these cars will outlive us. They will be special. They always will be special. And the more people that get educated about them, they'll get even more of a folklore. They'll get even more educated. There'll be more people wanting them just because, again, it's supply and demand. They're not making any more of them. They don't exist. So the ones that do exist are the ones you can buy. That is it. Like there's no, hey, I'm going to wait till next year till they make another one. It's just not going to happen. And because of this, as the sand runs out of the time thing, these things just get more and more expensive, more and more expensive. Anyways, but I do think there is a sweet spot. It's expensive, but even you want to drive a special car and you're okay with a minor accident or something like that and it was repaired right, you can go buy a $95,000 997.1 manual in black, probably has some miles on it, but that's great because then you can drive it and you'll have a special car and it'll always be special regardless. And then eventually you hang on to it long enough, as long as you don't get in another accident while you own it and you hang on to it 10, 15, 20 years, whatever, that minor won't even matter anymore. Like that stuff will eventually just, well, yeah, it had one back in, 2010, a guy rear-ended, but it was a bumper cover, and it was like, oh, okay, no big deal. And it'll still be valuable. But anyways, I thought that was a good educational, because I mean, initially with the Porsche stuff, it's easy to get in the muddy water, right? Like where it's like, oh yeah, Metzger engine. They're all everything 997, 996 Metzger engine, as long as it's a turbo or GT3. I've heard many people say that. Yeah, kind of. Kind of.
Might be. Well, I mean, because that confusing part goes with the 997.2 GT3s, and that's so they just go .2 everything. I would say, going back on my choice of 997, the only reason to choose a 996 if would be a little bit more variability, because you can take off the half shaft that connects the front, and so you can take the all-wheel drive off of it and make it a two-wheel drive car. A lot easier than you can with the 997s. Because the 997 went to electronic diff.
Yep. And I assume that's probably why a lot of people do like the 996. That is one reason why I really like the 996, because it did have that ability where you could make it two-wheel drive if you wanted to go that way, and then you could really get your version. I would say the peasant version of the GT2, essentially, right?
Because that thing's
You
not
know, and
going
you
down
could
either in price.
no, that thing literally, they were reasonable for, I guess people figured it out. I don't, obviously I'm not going to take claim for
A month or two.
They were normal. Well, I mean, they were normal for a while, and then all of a sudden, like overnight, I don't know if enough people figured it out. It was probably people like with Sweck and you know, Collective Auto and You Drive Auto, all of these boutique places that got their hands on them, and they priced them up, and that's where they should be at, because they are special cars and they made so few of them, it was just unbelievable to me that they were so cheap. I mean, you could buy one for like 130, and like a good one. Like, it wasn't like, oh, it was a ragged out piece of crap that sat in somebody's garage that was beat up and a bunch of accidents. I mean, but that went away really fast. Um, Anybody that were friends of mine that had the money, I was trying to push them toward. I was like, just get one. I know you don't even want this right now, but just buy one. Just buy one of these and just store it or something, because you would have made $100,000 in a year essentially if you would have turned around and sold it. I mean, eventually, I think that car is going to be worth really, really stupid money, just because there's so few of them. And then we're going to have this conversation. It's like, hey, did you see at Bonhams the other day that, when we're 65, 70 years old, be like, one sold for $560,000. It's like, holy crap, dude. Are you serious?
Still think that's a deal.
Serious.
Still think that's a deal.
Yeah, it's still undervalued. That's $1 million car. What are they doing?
Got $1 million in it. Yeah.
Yeah. Anyways, all right. So if you haven't got your Christmas gifts together yet, this is a perfect opportunity to buy someone special a P-Car Club membership. What comes with your membership? Well, first and foremost, the most important part of that is that you get an invitation to come to our coveted annual drive. That home base is Tobacco Lodge, right, Aaron? What else do they get with their membership?
North Carolina. So we've done a couple of things. So we have a Cars and Coffee one. So if you do Cars and Coffee one, we'll buy your coffee. Which, no, we think one person's taking us up on that. But the main thing is the just P-Car Club membership, which supports us, number one, to get us out to anything and everything we can have time to do, like DRT and stuff like that. But what they get is decals. We have the giveaways, which is most important because we're doing that every month, whether you see it or don't see it. I mean, it's still happening, whether the wheel's spinning or
which is badass,
Instagram, or
because you get so much cool
behind
stuff.
The scenes.
Like, we have given away thousands of dollars worth of stuff over the last 7 years and because it's a monthly giveaway. I mean, that stuff adds up fast. You know how Porsche stuff is. I mean, I think the cheapest thing we've ever given away was like maybe $150. And then the most expensive stuff we've given away is between like $800 or $900 in a monthly giveaway. So it's up there.
Easily between watches and models. And then with the higher end for the Kimchi crew, we're doing shirts, decals, a bunch of other stuff. We do a yearly gift, and that just depends on what we can find that's super special that we will send out and kind of let you in on that things. The other thing I'm thinking about, we'll talk offline. I'm thinking about adding some more stuff to that because it's more and more. Kind of you said it. I don't know how we do it, but I feel like some people need some Porsche help. Maybe a consulting type thing on there. So when they go to buy, if even if it's their first air cooled, their first Porsche, I think we could be on there and kind of guide them through that. And then the other thing we talked about was just doing a live stream every month that we'll send an email out. It'll be a normal Porsche podcast like we do here, but just like this. But you'll have a link, pop in there, see it happening, that sort of thing. So that's works, pretty much it. And then
and we also for example, like this hat, we gave away like 4 or 5 of these. We gave away some Coke hats. We give away stuff you can't even buy, like stuff that was like given to people from Porsche. Like we were able to secure some of this stuff from Porsche. So it's not even just about money. It's not even just like, oh, well, I have all the money in the world, I can just buy that. Well, then why don't you have one then? Because you can't buy this stuff. Like this stuff, Porsche never sold like these hats, for example. Like they literally just gave them away, and if you got one when you were there, that was it. There was no scheduled hey, everybody that's on this drive, we're going to eat at this time. Like if you were there and they showed up, and you were around, they gave you a hat. That's how it worked. Like we were there multiple times at multiple races, and they just came out, and Porsche ambassadors were out there handing out hats, and they were giving them away. And we turned around, we had a couple of our own, and then we gave away a ton of them to people who are like, man, I would have never got one of these because I didn't go to those events because I have a family or I have work, and I can't even buy one of those because they're selling them for like $1,000 on eBay, which is ridiculous, right? So it's like we didn't charge. Like if you had a membership, you got one for free if your name was pulled on the draw, right? Like it was that simple.
Yep.
And people are all the time like, hey, I need one of those hats. I'm like, yeah, I do too, jackass. Have fun with that. Go find another one. They're hen's teeth. So that like people, I mean, mine's like sweat stained. Like Aaron has a couple that are stained up. We know a couple people that have them because they're coveted. It was like, oh, I want one of those. It's like, yeah. And yeah, I bet you want an allocation for a GT3 RS or an ST too, don't you? You're one of those guys? Get the fuck out of here, man. Like, but anyways, you get the point. So, moving on from that topic, become a member. It helps us. It helps you. You get to do some cool stuff. You get free giveaways. All of this stuff's autopilot for you, man. We make it as easy as possible for you. All you got to do is sign up and then come to the drive. And then ask anybody that's ever been on it. It's the time of their life. They get all this free stuff too when they come. It's amazing. So I hope that you do join in all seriousness, not trying to plug it, a shameless plug. We really, really do appreciate the current members we have. We would really, really appreciate it if you are a listener and you're on the fence or haven't been on the fence. If you do join, it means a world to us. I really, really do mean that. All right. So last topic before we close out for this year. I sent this to Aaron. We would love to hear from you guys because I bet our listeners know a lot more about Porsche stuff than us. We're just two jack-offs up here talking about stuff sometimes. And you know what? Some of the people that I run into or Aaron runs into when we're at races or where we're at, we're like, man, that guy is way more knowledgeable than us. We need to talk to that guy. But in all seriousness, please tell us what you would pick on this topic, because send us a DM, Aaron will post a thing on our Instagram. We want to see that comment section blow up. When this comes out, he'll post this question on there, and I want to see what everybody has to say, because I genuinely am interested, not because I want to see the just engagement. I genuinely want the engagement, but I want to see what you guys have to say because I'm really, really interested. So I posed this question to Aaron to close out the year. Since it's Christmas and we're in the spirit, you got $50,000 for Christmas to buy a Porsche. You don't have any other car. Like this is going to be your only car.
Nothing.
You could play any situation that you want. It doesn't matter. Like you don't have any other car, but it has to be like you can't buy multiple cars. You can't play this, hey, I'm going to divvy the money up because I'm crafty with my cash. It's $50,000 all in. You spend it. If you have any left over, that's fine. You just can't go over Price is Right style. So I want to hear what you guys would spend for $50,000 in the Porsche world. I really, really do want to hear it. Aaron, do you have your car ready? Do you have your reasoning why you picked it? I want to know what you picked for $50,000.
Well, be a shocker. So it's going to be, well, actually, I was still making sure I was within that realm because I thought I found something, but I think it's more expensive than I thought it was. But, so I would try to find, even if it was a little bit more of a,
So you didn't
hot
do
rod,
any
I'd still
damn
look for,
research?
I did do research. Calm it down. Calm it down. I did. It's just hard for me to pick one car. I like splitting it up. No, I
That's why
was
I
always
put
going air cooled.
those rules in there.
I know. So I'm going air cooled.
Okay.
SC.
I'm surprised. This
Maybe.
is your only car. So you're going SC.
My only car. I mean, well,
All right. That's
I am.
okay.
I'm going SC. The more and more I keep seeing these things, the more I'm kind of like, well, 964 obviously that's out of the realm there.
Yeah, that's not a possibility.
But I know that I could find an interesting color. I don't have a specific one picked out, but like red would probably be what I would hunt down if I was hunting. Maybe like the chiffon one that I found the one time, maybe something like that. If I could find a color. Mainly because it's not carbureted. So I've seen something like a newer air cooled motor ish. If I could find one with a G50 in it, that would be ideal. It goes on all the rallies. It just gets to go anywhere. It's kind of modern enough where it's not a nightmare to be turning it on in cold weather and I guess super hot weather. I guess anything could be terrible for those air cooleds, but something where it's modern-esque, still has all the ability to be backdated, or for like it has whatever personality I want to at the end of the day. Safari'd. Outside of my 50 grand, once I decide like I'm bored.
Yeah.
That sort of thing. I think that's my reasoning. I mean, I just feel like that's a do-it-all, and it's a 911, so there's that.
Yeah. I like it. Good choice. I did not expect that. That's why I love playing this game sometimes, because I did not expect you to go air cooled. I definitely didn't expect you to go that far air cooled. Proud of you. So I picked
New Leaf.
2007 997.1
Okay.
Carrera S manual.
Oh.
Not special color. I found the exact car. Like it's like right at the number. It's like 48.9. No accidents. Silver, black interior. But you know what? The reason why I picked it, since I threw the rules out there, it's my only car. It's still manual. I think secret safe money is 997 C2S manuals. I think they're great cars. I think there's a lot of room there someday. I think these will be. It's kind of funny. In total transparency, Aaron and I don't discuss this prior. I feel like this has a lot of. I feel like this has a lot of heritage to an SC or to a G body 3.2 Carrera. I feel like shares a lot of that. Just more of a modern take on it. I mean, it's naturally aspirated. It's manual, rear wheel drive. It's most of them. Like unless you optioned it from factory, were slant back, right? Like obviously there's active aero on a C2, but I mean, it has the classic lines. That's kind of why I picked it as well. It can do daily duties. It's modern enough for that. Where, knock on wood, it shouldn't leave you stranded. You could drive it to work. You could drive it to meet up with friends. You could also go drive it in the mountains. It's very, very versatile. I would use the back seat as a storage area. You got the front storage area. That's where I would go with my money, just because I think there's room there. I think you could grow with that car. I think it's safe money to park, as well as yours. Like you're not going to lose money on an SC like that. If you put 50 in, you're definitely at a minimum you'll get 50 out when you sell it. I feel the same way about a C2S. So if you have that 50 grand and you're just like, hey, I want to buy a Porsche, this is where I want to be at. Those are two options right there, right? Obviously, if you're a hardcore guy like Aaron, you're like, hey man, I'm here for it. I'm going to send it. Like whatever happens, happens. I'm here for the adventure. If it leaves me stranded or it needs stuff or it needs a rebuild, I'm good with that. Um, I
Yeah,
kind of picked mine just
that was
because a
my
little bit more creature comforts, right? Like,
yeah.
but I think yours has a really cool like nostalgia thing too. I think that like sends a vibe. Um, if you're a type of person that's that all in kind of person, I think that's a cool vibe where you're just like, yeah. They're like, wait a minute, this 1982 SC is your only car. You're like, this is my only car. They're like, there's some badassness to that, right? Like, I think that's kind of like, holy shit, dude, you're nuts, but that's cool. Like, I'm a little less nuts when it comes to that, I guess. But they're like, hey, still 07, 08 Carrera, C2S, still a cool car. Got a lot of respect, got a lot of love. And, you know, it's one of those things where it's kind of like I said, it's got a lot of room in it, and it can do pretty much everything. Um, you know, outside of maybe living in the snow, then maybe go C4S, but
Yeah,
Blizzak
maybe. And I
tires.
just saw 4S for like for less. So
Mm-hmm. But I would
maybe that's a move.
I debated buying a 996 C4S at that money, but I
Hmm.
really wanted to get into a 997, and I was able to find like there wasn't a lot, to be honest. There was like two that were under 50. There wasn't a bunch. And this exercise, what I ended up seeing as well is the only 996 turbo I could find for that 50 mark was a convertible. And I'm like, dude, I can't have a convertible as my only car. Like that's just not going to work. So that was out. Um, so gone is the day where you could just buy, but the closest one I could find was um, I think it was like $54,000, and it had an accident, and I think it had like 90,000 miles on it. It had pretty good maintenance, but I'm like, I gotta stay true to the game. It's above the price range. I can't. Well, I'm gonna work extra and make a couple, extra grand and make that. No, I was like, all right, cool.
Overtime.
Well, then on top of that too, like if I'm like I looked at it this way: if I'm stretching to buy the car, like I wanted to kind of buy something that was, not too complicated. Meaning, like, didn't need coolant lines pinned. It didn't need any of this stuff. Like, I could just get into it, maybe do a PPI, no bore scoring. I'm like, okay, cool. I could just drive this car and have it for a while, and let's say I drove it for 5 years. Like, I could, out of worst case scenario, I pay for maintenance and I sell it for 50 grand in 5 years. Like, that's a win. Like, that's a huge win. And you'd be in the same situation. Like, you change oil, like tires, brakes, whatever. As long as it didn't anything major, like if you paid 50 for it, like you could easily get 50 right back out of that car.
For sure.
So there you
I mean,
have it.
yeah. I mean, there's some good deals too. I just saw one which I don't know that I would get it, but they made it like a 993 wide body situation from an SC, but it was actually about maybe less than 50. I thought I found a
Yeah, I would
996
say
turbo.
about some like
Yeah.
really wonky stuff like that. Like I would actually is
Yeah.
basic. Like if you're dailying it too, you don't want somebody's like
No.
I don't
Yeah,
know
project car.
pipe dream, I guess, that they kind of like splash together, right? Like you, if you're gonna
No.
mod it, like long as they're botons, that's fine. But if you get some like heavy mods as your only daily, like that's amateur hour shit right there because you're just asking for like you're asking for a problem, right? Like I think you picked a good car. I think I picked a good car. Like very parallel differences, but some lineage shared between those two cars, right? Manual, rear wheel drives. Um, I wouldn't say basics, but kind of basics for their era, and one's classic, one's a modern classic. And I just like playing this exercise every once in a while because the market always changes, right? Like even Carrera S's are up a lot. So to be able to bag one at 50, even if you have to pay 55 for one, I still think that's like people are like, well, I don't have GT3 money. Like, man, that's such a good car. If you have if you can get a $55,000 car, man, that is a $55,000 car that is awesome. And some people are like, yeah, but it's a 2007 or an 8. I can't believe I would pay that much for that car. It's like Okay, so go buy a 2025 $50,000 car. Will that car be worth 50 grand in 5 years? No, but that 997
No.
will be. That SC will be. Promise you that.
Yeah, and I mean, the 997 wasn't, it was in the 80s whenever it was new. So if you adjust it for that, then you're probably in the 100 something range. And so you're getting that for 50
Mm-hmm. Well, I don't have
with no
anything else on the.
depreciation.
Anything else?
Let's see, I think we talked about everything. So yeah, I think I'm good. Buy a membership, buy an SC, along with your 997.
Yeah, there you go. Hey, you guys have a great holiday. If you guys celebrate, if you don't celebrate, you know, be safe out there, have fun, spend some time with some friends and family, drive your cars, right?
Yep. Hopefully there's some keys in your
See
stuff.
ya.
Thank you so much for listening to this episode of PCAR Talk. Connect with us on Instagram at PCAR Talk or online at PCARTalk.com.